Today is Wednesday, June 13th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we get our monthly update from the Cape Cod Chamber, and we find out what Representative Tim Whalen is working on up at the State House. First, a look at today's weather. Partial sunshine giving way to increasing cloudiness. A few showers will try and spill into the area from midday through the afternoon. A downpour and a rumble of thunder is possible. Breezy, a touch of the humid side. Highs in the upper 60s to lower 70s. Let's start today with some news you can use. The town roads will be getting some shiny and bright white edge lines and yellow center lines. The town of Barnstable Highway Division will be repainting the white edge lines and yellow center lines on all town main roads that have existing yellow and white lines. Work started on Tuesday, June 12th and will continue through Friday, June 22nd. The work is expected to be done during the evening hours from 10 p.m. through 5 a.m., weather permitting. The public is encouraged to seek alternate routes to stay off the freshly painted lines. The newly painted lines take approximately 15 minutes to dry. And as always, please slow down and use extreme caution when traveling through the roadwork areas and follow posted safety signs. Questions? Contact Michael Perry, Highway Supervisor, 508-790-6330. Cape Cod Chamber President and CEO Wendy Northcross shares some annual meeting news and where to find summer. On the phone with us, Wendy Northcross from the Cape Cod Chamber. Wendy, your annual meeting was last night on Wednesday night. How was it?
It was great fun. We did something very different. And we did it on the pier at the Steamship Authority, not on the boat. Some people were afraid we were going to go somewhere, but we stayed right on the pier, and we had a grand old time celebrating Hyannis, the blue economy, a year of achievements. Excuse me. It was a long night, can you tell?
Yeah.
A year of achievements, and it was a great evening of camaraderie, networking, and we got a little bit of business done in the meantime.
Business. So do we have some new officers?
Yes, we do. This was our 96th annual meeting. So the Cape Cod Chamber was formed in 1921. Actually was formed after a meeting in the old Ferguson Hotel on Main Street in Hyannis. Do you know where the old Ferguson Hotel used to be?
I do not know.
It's where the Cape Cod Times building is today.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so, the Cape Cod Chamber, even though we cover the entire region, we have deep roots in Hyannis and the town of Barnstable. So we elected new officers, we elected some new directors, and it was kind of an exciting evening. So we have joining the board, actually he's been on the board before, but coming back on our board of directors after a few years hiatus is Bill Catania from Catania Hospitality. They own the Cape Codder and the Hearth and Kettle and some other spas and restaurants across the Cape and in Plymouth. And we have Robin Orbison. She is the creator and overseer of Cape Space, and that's in Hyannis. That's a great co-working space, shared working space. Very inventive. She's a great addition to our board. And then Jan Agerbeck. Jan and his wife own Cape Cod Coffee. And you know that Jan just opened a new shop at the airport at Barnstable Airport.
Yep.
So we're very excited. He has a deep background in the tech industry and very skilled, and we're very excited to have him. And then we had some directors that were re-upped for another term. That included Terry Hearn from Cape Cod Healthcare, Alyssa Galazzi from Housing Assistance Corp., Andy Gottlieb from the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, Steve McMahon, who's a accountant, Lisa Oliver, she's the new president and CEO at the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod. We also have Paulo Paraguay. He is the owner of Candy Corner on Main Street, Hyannis. We're thrilled to have Paulo join our board. He's brand new onto the board, as is Lisa. Lisa Parento was renewed for another term. She's a realtor with RE/MAX. Paul Schwartz from the Dockside Hotel Group. And then another new director, David Troutman from Scargo Cafe, of course, in Dennis. And he's very excited to be joining the board for the first time, too.
Wow, that sounds like a great slate to vote on. All of those folks are great community leaders.
It's a big board. You know, we
Yeah.
have 30 people on our board.
Wow.
Generally, there's one or two seats that we keep open for, you know, that opportunity to grab a great candidate. But so there's a lot, and we had a few people cycle off the board that we thanked, including Rich Delaney, who headed our wastewater task force. Olive Chase, she's our past board chair. She has completed her term of service. And Bob Maffey, who was a Barnstable High School grad, actually went to school with my daughter. He was really sad to leave the board, so you may see him back at some point in the future. But we also elected new officers. We have a 1-year term for our leadership team, and that means that Larry Drago of BizCheck's payroll. Larry is our new board chair. Bert Tallerman from the Cape Cod 5, he is our vice chair. Janet Feeney continues to be our treasurer. She's with DPL and BEG. Of course, that's centered in Hyannis as well. Linda Markham is our clerk. She is the president of Cape Air. Gail Nell, she is going to be leading our membership group. Jean Curry is going to lead our economic development group. Bill Catania was elected as an officer for the tourism activities that we do. And then Ken Smith will stay on for a year as the immediate past chair. So that's our new executive committee, and now I know who my new bosses are.
Right, and there's always so much work to do with the chamber. Like you said, there's Blue Economy, there's bridges. Talking about bridges, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so the bridges have risen up the list of things to do. Last night we actually handed out bumper stickers for people, nice little oval Cape Cod bumper stickers that have the fixcapecodbridges.com on there, and reminding people to support the plans for new spans, to go onto the petition and continue to sign the petition. We are already at just under 3,000 signers, and all through the summer we're going to be educating our visitors and our guests that there are plans underway. You know, we're hearing through credible sources that the work that was supposed to happen this fall may get pushed off to next spring. Hasn't been finalized yet, though, because the materials that they have to use to do the work on the Bourne Bridge are really sensitive to air temperature, so they can't do it when it's too cold out. So we're not sure exactly what will happen yet, but we're going to spend the whole summer telling people, hey, look, there's going to be a little bit of traffic pattern change either this fall or next summer. Just be aware.
All right. Well, hopefully there's more people. Awareness is really key here as people do sit on the bridges and before the bridges trying to get on and off Cape throughout the summer and the shoulder season. So the more people that are aware and supporting a project of replacing those bridges with something modern day is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think if people just know that disruption's going to happen, they can plan better? And
Right.
This spring, there was a 2-week notice, so it really caught a lot of people off guard.
Right.
And then by the time they all figured it out, the work was done. So.
And kudos to the Army Corps of Engineers and their subcontractor. It surprised everyone that that work was done so quickly.
Yeah, I think that they're getting better at some of the planning. You know, give us the long-term potential, but then hustle to get it finished fast, and we really do appreciate that. They do a great job. But regarding the weather and what the weather's going to do, you know, we've got our Quahog Day coming up soon too, and that's when we're going to find out what the summer weather's going to be.
So what do you think Doug the Quahog's actually going to prognosticate this year?
You know, he's such a crazy clam that it's so hard to predict. That's why we always attend, just like with bated breath, what's it going to be? And I will tell you, honest to God, Bella, that clam is better at predicting the weather than most of the meteorologists in New England. It's been right every single year. This will be the 10th year, and he's nailed the last 8. He did blow the first year, but he nailed the last 8. So you got to go. It's in Sandwich, starts out in the town of Barnstable. It's this Pilot House restaurant near the canal. And come and enjoy the view, a beer, and hear the clam predict the weather.
And what day is that?
That is the 21st of June, first day of summer. That's a Thursday.
Excellent. Well, we're all thinking summer at this point in time. We hope all the gray and gloomies are gone in our weather patterns, and it looks like it's a Cape Cod Chamber weekend.
That's the way we like it.
All right. Thanks so much, Wendy. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Representative Tim Whalen joined us in studio to discuss his work on Beacon Hill, including judicial review and an environmental bond bill. With us in studio today, Representative Tim Whalen. Tim, welcome.
Paula, good morning. Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to come in here and speak with your viewers and let them know what's going on with the government that they support, that they pay their taxes for.
Right. So you have some information recently with the judicial review. Why don't you give our citizens an update on that?
Yeah, of course. It's been well reported, the Cape and Islands delegation. We've called for a top-to-bottom review of the state's criminal justice system in the wake of the unfortunate and horrible murder of Sergeant Sean Gannon on Yarmouth PD. And Sean was a friend of mine. I worked with Sean when I was in the state police, and he was on Yarmouth Police. And when Chief Frederickson says that he was the Tom Brady of the department, that's not an overstatement in any way, shape, manner, or form. And our community is going to be reeling for a long time to come as we recover from this and come to grips with it. We need to take that tragedy and we need to make something good come out of this in honor of Sean, so that there is a silver lining to that dark cloud and that his death was not in vain. We've made progress. We've pushed the ball down the field with the direction of the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association. We passed in the House a police training funding bill to make sure that our municipal police officers get the adequate funding that they need so that they're properly trained, and so that we can give them even better advanced training, make them better investigators, better police officers, and give them the tools they need not only to serve us better, but also to give them the skills that will help keep them safe. So that's step one. Step two is, as a delegation, we've been working to get, as I had mentioned earlier, a top-to-bottom review of the criminal justice system. We want to find out why 125 was on the streets in that attic with an illegal firearm in his hand. We want to know how that firearm got in his hand and why he wasn't behind bars. Some of these matters are going to be very explainable under the rules of evidence in our system. When you have a victim that won't testify as to their being assaulted, we need to know if there's anything we can do to change that, if there's anything we can do legislatively within the system to account for, like what some other states do, is in a victim in a domestic violence situation in other states, if the victim refuses to testify, the state can take over the prosecution. I think that's essential. As a police officer myself, I've made dozens of arrests for domestic abuse, and I've had a number of times where victims refuse to testify. We need to look at what we can do in Massachusetts to change that. And that's just an example. We need to look at sentencing practices. We need to look at prosecutorial practices. We need to look at the bar. We need to look at how probation manages itself, parole manages itself. We need to look at how law enforcement does their jobs. And yes, we even need to look and review what we're doing in the legislature. When you take all those spokes in the wheel, Paula, and you put them together into that giant wheel that is criminal justice system, when you put all of them together, we should be able to get a comprehensive view of where the gaps are. And it's our duty and our responsibility to fill those gaps, and not just to protect the lives of the police officers, but every police officer I know will tell you that it's more important that we do that to protect the lives of the citizens, to make sure we're not taking dangerous people and sending them back into our communities and into our neighborhoods where they're preying upon vulnerable people, where they're preying upon hardworking, good, decent people who are just trying to raise a family. There's a problem in our system. I think that we have buried our heads in the sand too long. I think that we've got to pull our head out of the sand and find out where that problem is. And I believe, and I've said this time and time again, I really and truly believe the problem ultimately lies with the culture within the criminal justice system, and that's always the hardest to change.
Sure.
I've told people time again that my parents never once saw the inside of a courtroom. Never once. By the grace of God, they never got into trouble, not so much as a speeding ticket. They were good, hardworking, decent people. Dad was a teacher, Mom was an RN. But they were served and protected by the criminal justice system of the Commonwealth every single day. the most important people that our criminal justice system serves are the people who will never see the inside of a courtroom. It is not, and I say this emphatically, the most important constituency they serve is not the people that come in front of them every Monday during first call for arraignment. That is a constituency that they serve, but certainly not the most important one.
Right. So when we talk about judicial review, you've named off a lot of those different things. In the legislature, what does that mean? Is there a bill that'll be passed, or will it just be something that folks are just going to look at? Is it going to be a long study? You know, when you talk about something good coming out of this, the wheels of government don't move fast.
Correct.
So how would that start, and what would that process be?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that, because we're learning as we're going along in this too. The initial call that we had was we called for there being an oversight committee hearing, an oversight hearing done by the Joint Committee on the Judiciary and/or the Joint Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. It's looking now like more and more like that's not going to be the vehicle to do it.
Okay.
Reason for that, and I have to respect this because I'm a strict constitutionalist, is we do have a little thing called separation of powers. So the judicial branch, the executive branch, and the legislative branch. So we cannot wield our authority or exert any control over the judiciary. We can only do so through appropriation and through legislation. That's the only control that we have over the judiciary branch. We've had meetings as a delegation with the leadership of the trial court, the very top people in the trial court. And I have a follow-on meeting coming up in just a couple weeks again with one of the leaders of the trial court and some of his staff. And we're going to continue this ongoing discussion. And what I'm advocating for is I'm saying that you folks from the trial court, as the leaders in the criminal justice system, are going to have to open the doors of your operation, expose it to the public, educate them on how you operate, educate them on what you do, and publicly identify any flaws in the system that are there, accept feedback from the people, and look to make changes to fill those where those gaps are. That's not being met in general. I'm not speaking to the leadership, but I'm talking about in general with the people that work in that system. It's not being accepted very warmly. I don't care. Problem's a problem, and if people that work in that system don't like it, I don't care. I don't serve the judicial system. I serve the people of the 1st Barnstable District, the 42,000 people who put me in office in Boston. They're the ones that are leading the charge. They're the ones that are giving me the motivation. They're the ones that are giving me the direction. And believe me, I'm getting an awful lot of direction. My district is basically ground zero. Mine and Rep. Crocker's district, ground zero for where this tragedy occurred. And we are listening, and we are going to abide by our responsibility to serve our constituents who are calling for this change.
Right. So we also have 3 police chiefs in Massachusetts who have banded together. Chief Frederickson is one of those.
Sure.
And when you talk about your constituency, it's folks like myself and other citizens here. How can we support them and their efforts as well as the efforts in the legislation?
Letter writing.
Okay.
Staying on, certainly I would say that for the citizens here on the Cape, they don't have to reach out to their, to their legislators because we're on board, trust me. But if you have friends and family that live over the other side of the bridge, please, please, please ask them to send emails and letters and make phone calls to their legislators. Emails, phone calls, and letters to the Department of the Trial Court in Boston. The governor's on board with us, but it's always good to continue to send so that he sees that the wave of motivation behind this is strong. And as you had mentioned, Paula, we're very, very fortunate that we have Chief Frederickson has teamed together with Chief Slucas from Auburn, who's another close personal friend, as well as Chief Ferrulo from up in Woburn. These are 3 police chiefs who've lost 3 good, career, dedicated, solid people. They've lost them to hardened career criminals, all 3 of which belong behind bars. Dominic Sinelli up in Woburn, he belonged behind bars. The person that murdered Officer Tarantino in Auburn belonged behind bars. 125 belonged behind bars. Those 3 chiefs, and I've spoken with them, they have a soapbox that they're not afraid to use. And those of us here in the delegation, we want to do whatever we can to support them and to help them. And we're going to need the support, and we're going to need the strength of the voices of people not only here from the Cape, but also across the Commonwealth. To paraphrase my good friend Frank Frederickson, people, share your voices.
Excellent. We have just a couple of minutes left. I wanted to touch upon real quickly the environmental bond bill.
Yes.
Coastal resiliency, huge advocate of taking care of our water systems, our water wastewater, as well as estuaries. Where are we at?
Okay, so in true legislative fashion, you got to love the way things work up there. So I'm assigned to the Joint Committee on House Ways and Means. I'm the only member from the Cape and Islands delegation. I'm kind of like our elected, our appointed representative to the House Committee on Ways and Means. Last night, they released a 56-page bill, the environmental bond bill, to us. They released it to us, and there was a poll for a thumbs up or a thumbs down vote on it that was due at 10 o'clock this morning. So we have three choices, Paula. We can vote ought to pass, ought not to pass, or reserve our rights. I voted to reserve my rights solely because giving me just a few hours to read it through a 56-page bill, consider all the outside sections which affect the law, and consider the appropriations. You're talking a $1.8 billion bond bill. I think I need more than a few hours to look that over. In my review of it, now we're going to be voting on it tomorrow, so when I get done here today, I'm going to be spending the rest of today studying the bill, making phone calls, and we're going to look through it. But this is a rebuild of Governor Baker's original environmental bond bill, which I did read through and I did look at, and I spoke to the governor's staff on it. It's a comprehensive measure. We're looking to face challenges with climate change, because let's face it, climate change is happening. Whatever you think the causation of it, climate change is happening.
Now it's mitigation and adaptation.
And that's exactly what we're looking to do, as well as looking at cleaning up brownfields. There are things in there. One of the huge parts of that is that I'm going to try and tap into just as much as I can, deals with improving water quality, which I'm looking to take some of those funds, hopefully, and get them down here to the Cape to help our towns. I mean, in Barnstable, Yarmouth, Dennis, and just in those three towns, we're looking, I believe it's somewhere in the area of, what, $400 million in expense. Right. And we are going to need to find any and all help available. So we're going to try and get whatever we can out of that to help our towns here on the Cape. So, and as we were talking about with the coastal resilience efforts, I've already been talking, one of my towns is Brewster, and they have a couple of coastal issues that they're dealing with there as well. Okay. We're going to try and get some money out of that bond bill and try and get it directed there too. So it presents us with a great opportunity, and I credit and I applaud the Baker-Polito administration for having recognized just how important this is, and having submitted this bill for us to review. So it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow, because I'm sure that there will be a pile of amendments about 6 feet high that will be filed on it, because everybody's going to want a little piece of the pie. And that's called us doing our job for our local districts. Right. So it's going to be a very long day. We're going to hash through this. I'm looking forward to the discussion on this, because as we know, climate adaptation seriously affects Cape Cod and the islands, and I want to be a part of that discussion as we look to fix the problems.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you, Paula. You're the best. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Be good.
Here's a look at the community calendar. On June 14th at 6 p.m., the 11th annual Flag Day ceremony will be at the Meeting House Farm on Route 149, featuring a ceremonial U.S. flag retirement ceremony. All are welcome, with a flag or not. A short celebration to celebrate the U.S. flag, along with a flag retirement ceremony in accordance with official protocols. See www.westbarnstable.org for more information. And at 7 p.m., head on over to the Old Colony Courthouse for Where Does the Water Go?, an informative event co-sponsored by Association for the Preservation of Cape Cod, APCC, and Friends of Barnstable Harbor. Learn about stormwater and how we can better manage this water source. It's free. It's at Tales of Cape Cod, 3046 Main Street, Barnstable. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.